Hey there, so I'm going to be a little quieter because the house is asleep. But I'm just sitting here in my morning ponderings and thinking about fractal implosion. The same thing everybody thinks about when they wake up. So I was thinking about how, first I want to prelude this message with a to each their own, no judgment. Everybody chooses their path. But I can see the split in like a different aspect, how certain things are going technological and some things are realizing that the things that we use technology to do, we can do without technology. And it just kind of happens naturally when the heart is centered and you kind of live in that bliss state because you've processed life. And if you've had lots of experiences like me, you've had plenty of life to process. There's a lot of different things that were running through my mind, and who knows if I'll be able to focus them all into what I'm trying to say here, but there's this certain thing that happens within us when we meet a negative with humility or a level of understanding, or even just surrender for not being able to understand the details, but know that something deep is going on because we can feel it in our heart, So one of the thoughts I was having is about, there's these weird negative pretenses put on altars in churches, talking about them being harvesting machines or, portals for energy and places where you can hit that bliss point, like the reason in which those places would be those places and are, and which can also happen within our bodies and in our hearts, is because it brings you to that bliss point. Now, mind you, again, to each their own in this regard as well, because not everybody that goes up to an altar at some point in their life goes up there for the same reasons. Some are going to praise an outside source. Some are going to even, praise whoever it is that might be teaching at the pulpit or what have you. But I've had my own experiences in the beginnings of my walk where I was trying to find non-denominational churches just because I was so uninformed and had no clue like what was what with this religion thing. And I visited a pulpit or two. But for me, it was a different situation. It was like a surrender to not understanding, but feeling as though there was an understanding that I didn't have, that I knew I would have. And the place that I was brought to, the tears that flowed and the healing that incurred because of the release that took place. And quite in fact, or didn't make any sense, but what was really taking place was fractal implosion. Anytime you can, take two contrasting energies and bring them to a 0 point, even if it's just surrender, not full acceptance, but just, full acceptance as well. In that brief moment, you've completely let go and you're completely releasing all of the charge that it once held that was so destructive for our holy temple, our body. And, the point in saying all this is the fact that, we can do this all day, every day, not like sitting there, like going deep with everything. Now, mind you, if you've had a lot of shit go on in your life, it's going to be unavoidable once the process begins, because you'll start understanding that every experience you've ever had you might have stored within your body even without knowing it, or, it dwells in your memory, has so much wisdom to offer in the understanding of how this world is created by our thoughts, our feelings, our fears, our ripples that we're writing out from past generations, or even our own choices. It becomes like this natural flow of existence and feeling. And I understand that some people might want to just skip that whole feeling thing and go tech with it and go sit under some pyramid with a magnet up top and copper wires and what have you, and bring their physical body to this bliss state. But if the neural network, if the halls of a mentee are still all chaotic and don't know what's going on, and mind you, they will find their own order, but I don't think that thing can be forced, I think that if you do force it, that the patterns that we still have and carry and act with accordingly will just keep recreating the same thing, and you'll have to keep visiting the pyramid, and you'll be just kind of staying at this sweet spot. But if you didn't have that pyramid, then what? Like if you didn't have that crystal, or that candle, or that ceremony, or what have you, then what? The key, I think, at least for me, and then my personal choice, is living that way every day. It does have you kind of walking lucidly through this dream, because you start understanding every experience from a completely deeper level, from a fractal level, realizing that when you feel these contrasting moments, and sometimes it can be intense, you can literally feel the implosion within your body, and I've heard it referenced to as like a nuclear explosion sort of thing, In some cases it could give you an anxiety attack or a panic attack, or whatever the case is, but the stronger that feeling is, the more divine the extraction will be, the outcome, the bliss factor, the sweet spot. So, I don't know, I'm just really loving seeing how this has kind of just been my natural state for a long time and didn't know. It explains a whole heck of a lot. But I'm programmed to turn a negative into a positive because I know that everything is everything and it all has purpose. I don't need any special ceremonies, devices, medicines, practices, stretching poses. Mind you, it would help with the energy clearing and keeping it moving through, because I am a conscious magnet that would like to bring forth everything that I am and all that is asking. So there's all that. I hope you guys have a great day.